We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. US President Trump wants to impose additional tariffs on countries selling oil to Cuba, eases Venezuela sanctions after oil sector reforms. Russia reiterates its invitation to Ukrainian President Zelensky for peace talks in Moscow as US-led efforts to end the nearly four-year conflict intensify. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar to hold bilateral talks with Arab leaders as New Delhi is set to host the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting on 31st of January. In Australian Open semi-finals, Carlos Alcaraz is pitted against Alexander Zverev while Yannick Sinner clashes with Novak Djokovic to reach final. And on to the details now. The Trump administration on Thursday broadly eased U.S. sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry to encourage higher production. Now, the Treasury Department issued a sweeping general license allowing U.S. companies to engage in routine activities involving Venezuelan crude and state oil firm PDVSA from production and transport to refining and sales. This replaces the earlier policy of granting individual waivers. The license bans non-commercial payment terms, debt swaps, gold or digital currency transactions, and excludes entities linked to Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, or China. Well, the move came as Venezuelan lawmakers approved reforms to the country's oil law, expanding autonomy for private producers and formalizing production sharing models. Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, called the changes a historic leap and said Venezuela was taking important steps after speaking with President Donald Trump. And Venezuela's legislature on Thursday passed sweeping reforms to open the oil sector to private investors, meeting long-standing U.S. demands. Lawmakers approved changes to the hydrocarbon law that dismantle decades of strict state control and ease rules on foreign participation. To attract much-needed private capital after years of U.S. sanctions, the bill introduces a more flexible royalty system. National Assembly President George Rodriguez, the brother of interim President Delcy Rodriguez, said the changes would bring positive outcomes after prolonged hardship. Under the new framework, private companies can explore, produce and market oil independently without forming joint ventures with state firm PDVSA, which previously had to retain a majority of ownership. Now, the reform paves the way for U.S. oil majors to return to Venezuela's home to the world's largest proven reserves, despite output plunging to about 1.2 million barrels per day. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that he planned on opening up Venezuela's airspace after a discussion on Thursday with the country's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez. Trump also said that major U.S. oil companies are going to the South American country to scout out projects. Trump made his comments during his first cabinet meeting of 2026.
The president of Venezuela informed her that we're going to be opening up all commercial airspace over Venezuela. American citizens will be very shortly able to go to Venezuela, and they'll be safe there.
Well, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration said on Thursday it has withdrawn 4 advisories to airlines about airspace risks in the Caribbean, including one covering Venezuela, and said the warnings are no longer needed. The notices had been issued as precautionary measures, while the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the move would help reopen travel links between the United States and Venezuela. Following the announcement, American Airlines said it plans to restore flights, noting it is coordinating with U.S. authorities and will finalize schedules after receiving government approval and completing security reviews. U.S. commercial flights have been barred from Venezuelan airspace since 3rd of January, a restriction now set to ease with the FAA's decision. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday he expected the implementation of an agreement by Russia not to fire on Kyiv and other cities for a week because of winter weather, as announced by U.S. President Donald Trump. Zelensky said the days to come would show whether Moscow would abide by such an agreement. Speaking immediately afterwards in his nightly video address, Zelensky expressed his thanks to Washington for the initiative, which he described as halting Russian strikes on energy targets. Also, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin had agreed to refrain from firing on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities for a week because of cold winter weather. Negotiators from Ukraine, Russia and the United States held unusual three-way contacts last weekend in the United Arab Emirates. Early on Thursday, Trump said that Russia had agreed to pause its shooting for a period of time.
I told that Russia's not doing any shooting for a period of time during this horrendously cold weather.
Because of you.
So we asked President Putin if they could stop the shooting for a week. They're being hit with proportionately the kind of cold that we're being hit. It's much colder in Ukraine to start off with, but it's really cold now, and he agreed to do that. We appreciated that very much. It's a nasty war. It's a nasty, nasty war.
And for more on this, we have Akhilesh Suman joining us. Well, Akhilesh, good morning. What do we understand about the scope and credibility of this reported pause for some time, with the next round of talks, of course, scheduled for this weekend? Where do we see this going? What can we expect?
I think that after 4 years of war, between Ukraine and Russia, we saw in Abu Dhabi recently that there has been trilateral meeting between Ukraine, Russia, and Washington D.C. And I think it was a bit calming for every party that yes, some people are sitting together and they are talking, because everyone was surprised that whether Zelensky will agree to sit with Russians, Zelensky's representative will agree to sit with a Russian representative directly or not, but it happened. And it is going to happen again. So I think that as President Trump has said that he has personally talked to President Putin, and he has told that President Putin will not fire on Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities because this cold is going so bad. Minus 30 degrees centigrade cold is there. So there is a humanitarian crisis. It's not the question of Zelensky as a person, not Zelensky as a president, but it is a question of Ukrainian people. And he expected that President Putin will oblige him. Trump told his cabinet. So I think there should be some credibility, as President Trump is saying, and he's making an open statement. And it must be reaching President Putin that Trump has said that, and Zelensky is also believing. So I hope that President Putin will respect it. And in next round of talks, as you know, that even the Chancellor of Germany, he is also seeing some silver lining in this assurance by President Trump. So let us hope, let us keep our fingers crossed that people of Ukraine will get some reprieve after President Trump has announced this his talk with President Putin. Though he did not specify that when did he talk with President Putin, in what manner, but yes, he is telling this, and we have to believe it, because President Trump and President Putin are in constant conversation in one way or other. They understand each other very well. Many a time we have seen that President Trump is, articulating President Putin's demand. So in that way, his, efforts are sincere, being seen by many quarters. And let us see that how it turns up, because people of Ukraine are really under great distress because of this war and cold. Because of this cold, that when the whole Zaporizhzhia plant is disabled, in that situation, energy supply is at stake in Ukraine, and one must hope that President Putin will will show some sort of kindness, on people of Ukraine.
All right, Akhilesh, as you mentioned, that we can give some credibility to the peace truce with another round of talks scheduled for this weekend and Russia inviting President Zelensky to Moscow. How serious does this push for peace appear, with US-led efforts also intensifying?
The situations are turning, moving towards peace because President Zelensky understands the limitation of Ukrainian army. And at a time when President Trump has diversified his attention in many quarters of the world, and in that situation, there is a strong belief in Ukraine that, they cannot get the support of USA in the way they were getting support 3 years ago when President Joe Biden was there. President Trump has his own understanding about this whole war, this whole conflict. Even Europe cannot support in unlimited way to Ukrainian army because they have also limitations. I think that Russia is seriously thinking that there should be some truce. So I think that in next round of talks, and if President Zelensky really goes to Moscow, it will be really a game changer. And since Putin will be there, Zelensky will be there, and if Zelensky and Putin are sitting together, maybe you cannot be sure. I cannot predict it now, but maybe Donald Trump, puts some more energy into the talks. So I think that it will be fruitful if Zelensky visits Moscow, because Putin has always been telling that there is a need of talk between Zelensky and Putin. Everyone wants that there should be direct talk, and if Zelensky and Putin are talking directly, there will be no better than this. Let them talk. And I hope that if Zelensky visits Moscow, it will be a great thing that for the confidence building between Russia and Ukraine. And the way Zelensky is talking about, the whole security guarantee, who will give the security guarantee? Actually, the security guarantee has to be given by Russia because, you cannot get security guarantee without Russia. So I think that will be a game changer if Zelensky visits Moscow.
All right. All right. We look forward, as you said, that it can be a game changer. Thank you so much for all those details. And moving on, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that international law was being trampled and cooperation eroded as global problems will not be solved by one power calling the shots. His remarks come just a week after US President Donald Trump launched his so-called border peace, initially designed to cement Gaza's rocky ceasefire, but which he foresees taking a wider role, worrying other global powers. Well, Guterres also had a warning for the world on technology. He has made pushing for a governance framework for artificial intelligence a priority as well.
International law is trampled, cooperation is eroding, and multilateral institutions are under assault on many fronts. When perilous actions do not meet adequate reaction, the system destabilizes. Global problems will not be solved by one power calling the shots.
And still to come in DD India News Hour. West Asia tensions rise as Trump signals talks with Iran, warns of military action. New Zealand joins France, Norway in rejecting Trump's border peace initiative. And Swiss designer Germania dazzles Paris Haute Couture Week with pulled upcycled couture.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic. Open your mind to a whole new world. Explore mystic wonders of nature in the forests.
Welcome back. You're watching DD News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and amidst the growing grim situation in West Asia, U.S. President Donald Trump said that he was planning to talk to Iran, referring to his quote saying, "We have a lot of very big, very powerful ships sailing to Iran right now, and it would be great if we didn't have to use them." Reiterating Trump's warning to intervene if Iran continued to kill protesters, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that the U.S. military will be prepared to carry out whatever President Donald Trump decides on Iran to ensure that Iran does not pursue nuclear weapon capability.
They have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities. We will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department.
Meanwhile, European Union on Thursday designated Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as terrorist group amid protest crackdown, putting the powerful guards in a category similar to that of Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. Well, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas wrote on social media platform X, and I quote, "Repression cannot go unanswered. Any regime that kills thousands of its own people is working towards its own demise," unquote. Also, the European Union adopted sanctions targeting 15 individuals and 6 entities responsible for serious human rights violations in Iran. The list includes Iranian Interior Minister Eskander Momeni, Prosecutor General Mohammad Moawahedi Azad, a number of IRGC commanders, Iranian Audiovisual Media Regulatory Authority, and several software companies. Also, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi criticized the EU minister's decision. The Iranian minister wrote on X, and I quote, "Europe is making another major strategic mistake. The European Union's current posture is deeply damaging to its own interest," unquote. And New Zealand rejected an invitation to take part in U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace on Friday, joining a small list of nations to knock back the proposal. While many states have expressed misgivings, only a small number of nations, including France, Norway, and Croatia, have explicitly turned down the invitations. Trump launched his Board of Peace initiative at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland last week. He was joined on stage by leaders and officials from 19 countries to sign its founding charter. Well, strategic and economic partnerships take the center stage as UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer visits China in a bid to reboot ties with the country amid tensions with the US. Outcomes over visas, whiskey and much else have been heartening for the UK, with the promise of Beijing opening up further to London. But question is, will it cause heartburn in Washington? Let's look.
UK and China agreed to develop a long-term and stable comprehensive strategic partnership as Chinese President Xi Jinping and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer met in Beijing. Starmer is on a 4-day official visit to China, the first by a British PM in 8 years. Xi said that the two sides needed to strengthen dialogue amid turbulent international situation.
China is willing to develop a long-term, stable and comprehensive strategic partnership with Britain, which will benefit the people of both countries and also the world. Your visit has attracted a lot of attention. The road of success is often strewn with setbacks.
Starmer emphasized that London and Beijing were working together on issues like global stability. The issue of jailed pro-democracy media mogul Jimmy Lai and persecution of Uyghurs in China were also raised by British Prime Minister.
Well, we raised those issues as you would expect. Part of the rationale for engagement is to make sure that we can both seize the opportunities that are available, which is what we've done, but also have a mature discussion about issues that we disagree on.
Starmer also announced that the two countries would jointly tackle gangs involved in trafficking illegal migrants. On the economic front, UK drug maker AstraZeneca announced $15 billion investment in China. This is the biggest deal announced so far during Starmer's trip. Ties between UK and China had deteriorated for years under previous conservative governments when London curbed some Chinese investment over national security worries and expressed concern over a crackdown on political freedoms in Hong Kong. But recent months have seen a thaw in ties amid tensions between UK and US over tariffs and Greenland. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, reacting on UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's visit to China, US President Trump has reportedly warned Britain that it would be very dangerous for the country to do business with China. The remarks came after London and Beijing announced steps aimed at mending ties. Also, US President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Thursday threatening to impose additional tariffs on countries that sell oil to Cuba, increasing pressure on Mexico. Now, the proposed new levies were outlined in an executive order, although no details were given on specific tariff rates or which countries would be targeted. Trump has repeatedly threatened action against Cuba and its leadership, and in the wake of the U.S. military operation to oust former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, earlier Trump has said the Cuban government is ready to fall. Well, Donald Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum spoke on Thursday about trade and security. Trump praised Sheinbaum as Mexico's wonderful and highly intelligent leader. Both leaders said the call was productive. The call follows a Wednesday meeting in Washington between Sheinbaum's economy chief and the U.S. trade representative, who agreed to begin formal discussions on possible reforms to the United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday Republicans and Democrats have agreed to get the vast majority of the federal government funded till September, while at the same time providing an extension to the Department of Homeland Security. Trump said in a post on Truth Social that Republicans and Democrats in Congress have come together to get the vast majority of the government funded until September, and that he was working with the U.S. Congress to fully fund the government and avoid another shutdown. And updates from Niger now, where military ruler has blamed French, Benin and Ivory Coast presidents for sponsoring the attack on Niamey International Airport, although offered no evidence. The two security sources described the overnight incident as a terrorist attack and said security had been reinforced around the airport following an internal alert about an imminent attack on the site. The area around the airport is a sensitive site in the West African country, which is already grappling with militant violence. But authorities said calm had returned and daily life in the capital of about 1.5 million people was largely unaffected. Also, the West African nation, like its Sahel neighbors Mali and Burkina Faso, has struggled to contain attacks from jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State that have killed thousands and also displaced millions in the three nations. Well, the Ethiopian Airlines cancelled flights to Tigray, and residents of the northern region rushed to try to withdraw cash from banks after clashes between the regional and the national forces raised fears of renewed conflict. Clashes broke out in disputed Western Tigray between national forces and Tigrayan force, and disputes continue over contested territories in Western Tigray and the delayed disarmament of Tigrayan forces. A senior Tigrayan official said regional government had reached out to Addis Ababa to seek an explanation for the flight cancellations, but had received no response. Also, the officials hope for a de-escalation of tensions in the region. Well, in Spain, relatives of the 45 people who died in last week's train crash won't stop fighting to find out why the two high-speed trains collided. Relatives said this at the service in the southern city of Huelva, attended by King Philip VI and Queen Letizia. Spain is still trying to come to terms with the January 18th disaster near the village of Ademuz in southern Spain that caused one of the highest death tolls from a train crash in European history. The government has been scrutinized over whether it has sufficiently invested in maintenance of Spain's vaunted railway system since the crash and other incidents that same week, including the death of a train driver in Catalonia. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world today. Swiss designer Kevin Garmania lit up the Paris Haute Couture Week with a bold couture show made from upcycled materials. Models walked in tulle ball gowns, neon cutout dresses and sequined suits finished with dramatic headpieces, as Germania showcased its love for volume, sparkle and recycled embellishments. An adult northern elephant seal known as Panchito was spotted resting on a beach in Nayarit, prompting the Mexican Navy to set up a safety zone around the animal. Officials say the seal is healthy and likely came ashore to rest, while scientists suggest climate change may be pushing the species beyond its usual habitat. Alexandria's historic Ramel tramway is set to shut down next week as authorities begin a major overhaul to replace the 150-year-old line with a modern light rail system. Officials said the upgrade will cut travel time and boost capacity, while many residents fear higher fares, traffic disruption and the loss of one of the city's most cherished landmarks. Well, Moscow set a new precipitation record with 14 millimeters of snow falling in a single day, pushing total January snowfall to 76.2 millimeter, 147% of the monthly average. Snow depth has exceeded 60 centimeters, but city crews are clearing streets and life in the Russian capital continues normally. Airports report no flight delays or cancellations. Well, just as the buglers sounded the final patriotic tunes at Beating the Retreat ceremony at Vijay Chowk in New Delhi, just a few kilometers away, the festive spirit of the 77th Republic Day was still palpable at the residence of Romanian Ambassador to India, Sena Latif, in New Delhi. DD India's Tanvi Taneja reports for more.
Music is the great uniter, an incredible force, something that people who differ on everything and anything else can have in common. Music breaks through barriers and it brings us together even when everything else seems to divide us. A cultural evening celebrating the spirit of the 77th Republic Day saw the incredible Romanian-Indian cultural partnership honoring unity, humanity, sustainability, freedom and harmony.
It's really a privilege, of course, to celebrate India's Republic Day. We have 77 years of amazing, solid relations between Romania and India, and we've also just celebrated Romanian National Day of Culture in January. So we thought these two amazing auspices are there to host this evening with Dr. Sanjana John and other friends that show how music is the common language, one of the common values we share between Romania and India and the entire world.
We've already started a small wave of peace in the world. It's I don't know, it's at this age to come and to be part of a group like this is very special.
कल्चर एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो बहुत सारे लोगों को एकजुट करती है. आज उसमें से एक इवेंट है और बिकॉज मैं एक एक्टर भी हूँ, एक प्रोड्यूसर भी हूँ, तो मुझे लगा कि it's an honor for me to be a part if Her Excellency is personally invited.
Further, Sena Latif, Romanian ambassador to India, called the just concluded India-EU FTA an important milestone.
And it's not only the trade, I think it's actually a symbol for mutual trust. I think it shows now our companies, of course, will come here, Indian companies will go to Europe with much more trust because they see the amazing endorsement that was at high level, like you said, for Republic Day. So this will definitely lead to more projects in defense, in people-to-people contacts, in academic. There is so much that this is opening the way to.
The special evening of music was attended by several European envoys, Indian ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, and friends of cultural diplomacy. Tanvi Taneja for ED India.
And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to hold bilateral talks with the visiting leaders as New Delhi is all set to host the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting on 31st of January. The meeting will be co-chaired by India and the UAE. The leaders from Sudan, Palestine and Comoros have arrived in India on Thursday. Well, the Foreign Ministers meeting is happening after a gap of 10 years, the first meeting being held in 2016 in Bahrain. At the first meet, the ministers identified 5 priority verticals of cooperation. Those are economy, energy, education, media and culture, and proposed a set of activities across these verticals. Also, the second India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting is expected to build on our existing cooperation, expanding and deepening this partnership as well. India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting is the highest institutional mechanism driving this partnership, which was formalized in March 2002 when India and League of Arab States signed an MOU institutionalizing the process of dialogue. Well, a memorandum of cooperation was signed for the establishment of Arab-India Cooperation Forum during the visit of the then Arab League Secretary General Amr Moussa to India in December 2008, which was subsequently revised in 2013 in terms of structural organization. This is the first India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting to be hosted by India in New Delhi and will see participation by all 22 Arab countries by foreign ministers, other ministers, ministers of state and other senior officials in Arab League. Meanwhile, ahead of the India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting, Palestinian Foreign Affairs Minister Wasim Agha-Bekhian Shahin has said that India could help bring an end to the conflict between Israel and Palestine. She added that New Delhi's long-standing political support and developmental assistance to the Palestinian people are significant in the times of conflict.
A lot of expectations. India is a great country and it can play a great role. Being a friend to Palestine as well as a friend to Israel puts it in a place where can it be a bridge for both countries. In the final analysis, what we want is to forge peace, a peace that reflects the respect of both people, the respect of international law and whatever is enshrined in international law.
And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met U.S. Ambassador to India Sergio Gore in New Delhi on Thursday. The conversation covered the many dimensions of India-U.S. partnership. Dr. Jaishankar welcomed Gore and expressed confidence that he would contribute to the strengthening of India-U.S. relations. In a social media post, Sergio Gore said it was always a pleasure to spend time with Dr. Jaishankar. He added that two leaders had a highly substantive discussion that covered everything from defense, trade, critical minerals, and working towards a common interest. Well, moving on, India's space economy has grown to an estimated $8.4 billion with 399 startups now operating across launch vehicles, satellites, propulsion systems and space-grade electronics. While replying to a starred question in the upper house of Parliament, Union Minister of State for Science and Technology and Space Dr. Jitendra Singh said while India had never lacked scientific capability or commitment within ISRO, the minister said the absence of an enabling ecosystem had earlier limited wider industrial participation. The reforms created conditions for private investment and entrepreneurship in a sector that had remained largely government-driven for decades. He informed the House that private entities are now engaged across multiple segments of the space value chain. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has signed a technology transfer agreement with ISRO for the small satellite launch vehicle, while a range of Indian companies are working on satellite platforms, launch systems, propulsion technologies and related applications as well. And India on Thursday provided the second tranche of election-related assistance to Nepal as the nation heads for the March 5th election following the Gen Z protest. Now, more than 250 vehicles were ceremonially handed to the government of Nepal in Kathmandu. In his remarks at the ceremony, Finance Minister Rameshwar Prasad Kanal mentioned the long-standing cooperation and friendly ties between India and Nepal. He also thanked the government and people of India for the supplies and appreciated their significance in preparations for upcoming elections. The first tranche of such election-related assistance by India was handed over to Nepal on the 20th of January. More deliveries are expected to take place in batches in the coming weeks. The ongoing cooperation and support from the Indian side is not only an apt reflection of the multifaceted and multi-sectoral development partnership that exists between both the countries, but also symbolizes the deep mutual trust and friendship between the people of India and Nepal. And India and Bangladesh on Thursday concluded the release and repatriation of 23 Indian and 128 Bangladesh fishermen along with their vessels. Indian fishermen who inadvertently crossed the international maritime boundary line had been arrested by Bangladesh authorities recently. Well, the Bangladesh fishermen had also been apprehended by Indian authorities. Similarly, the mutual exchange of fishermen and their vessels has been worked out, keeping in mind the humanitarian and livelihood concerns of fishing communities on both the sides. The well-being of the Indian fishermen during their period of incarceration was monitored by the Indian High Commission, which provided them with warm jackets and ensured provision of essentials. The Government of India attaches the highest importance to the safety, security and welfare of Indian fishermen. And moving on, India's central state of Chhattisgarh sets an example by empowering women through public distribution system. Well, stepping out of tradition, women's self-help groups are revolutionizing state's public distribution system, bringing efficiency and improved access to grains for village communities simultaneously.
In Chhattisgarh, women empowerment is not just a slogan but a reality on the ground. Sunita Sonkar has been running a PDS shop for the past 4 years. This initiative of the Chhattisgarh government has not only strengthened the public distribution system but has also given a new identity to women's economic self-reliance and social participation.
महिलाओं को लखपति बनाने का काम भी सरकार के तरफ से चल रहा है। महतारी दीदी बनाने का काम भी कर रहे हैं, तो हमारी माता बहनों को भी काफी आगे बढ़ाएंगे और यहाँ पर रोजगार धंधा भी ला रहे हैं।
From stock management to timely distribution of ration to beneficiaries, women are efficiently handling systems such as ration distribution, EPOS machines, digital records and online entries. PDS shops run by women clearly reflect transparency and discipline. More than 14,000 PDS shops are operational in Chhattisgarh, of which around 41%, over 5,700 PDS shops are run by women. This has provided them with a regular source of income. Women in Chhattisgarh are setting an example of self-reliance and leadership. Under the leadership of Chief Minister Vishnu Dev Sai, this initiative is emerging as a strong step towards women empowerment in the state.
Well, on January 30th, India observes the death anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. We remember not just him, but the timeless legacy that continues to inspire generations across continents. His commitment to truth, non-violence and unity continues to inspire the world. Ayushi Ahuja has a report on this. The world knows him through three simple lines: see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Yes, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. Born on 2nd October 1869 in Porbandar, Gujarat, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi grew up a quiet child, later fondly called Bapu. The man was an epitome of simplicity, dressed in a simple hand-woven cotton loincloth, often white, distinctive round eyeglasses, and simple sandals for footwear which he wore during all his marches against the British monarchy.
Gandhi's policies planned to force
The world remembers Gandhi as a towering freedom fighter, social reformer, political thinker, and a spiritual guide. Through movements like Dandi March, non-cooperation, civil disobedience, Quit India, Champaran Satyagraha, among others, Gandhi united millions under one banner: truth and non-violence. Mahatma Gandhi's greatest achievement came in 1947 when India finally won independence from British rule after nearly 2 centuries of colonial dominance. 3 years of peaceful resistance, his leadership united the entire Indian subcontinent that proved to the world that lasting change can come through unity, discipline, and non-violence. But January 30th, 1948 marked a dark chapter. While walking to his prayer meeting at Birla House in New Delhi, Gandhi was assassinated by Nathuram Godse. January 30th, 2026 marks the 78th death anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Yet, his ideas refused to die. Martin Luther King Jr. called Gandhi his guiding light, applying non-violence during America's civil rights movement. Nelson Mandela drew inspiration from Gandhi while fighting apartheid, earning him the title Gandhi of South Africa. The Dalai Lama has said Gandhi's life taught and inspired him. Former US President Barack Obama wrote that Gandhi's non-violent struggle became a beacon for marginalized communities worldwide, echoing Gandhi's timeless words: "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Even today, peace movements worldwide trace their roots back to his teachings.
In a world facing conflict, division, and intolerance, Gandhi's message feels more relevant than ever. Mohandas Gandhi didn't just lead India to independence. He gave the world a roadmap for freedom without violence. And as the world remembers him on his death anniversary, the real tribute lies in choosing peace. Ayushi Ahuja for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Spotlight on credit, income security and sustainability for India's farm sector in Union Budget 2026-27. Indian Grandmaster Divya Deshmukh to make her debut at Norway Chess Tournament. And we'll get you glimpses of Beating Retreat 2026 at Tri Services and CAPF bands enchanted Vijay Chowk with patriotic melodies.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching TD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and on to some business news now. Agriculture remains the backbone of India's economy, supporting livelihoods across the country and driving rural demand. As expectations rise ahead of the Union Budget 2026-27, the focus is firmly on how the government plans to strengthen the farm sector through credit support, income security, sustainability and market access. A report.
Much hope and speculation also surrounds the measures that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will announce for the agriculture sector in the fiscal year 2027 Union Budget. Agriculture contributes about 18.2% of India's GDP and employs nearly 50% of India's workforce. The Union Budget for 2025-26 recognized agriculture as a key growth engine for the economy and emphasized measures to promote productivity, seed innovation and sustainable farming.
देसी कंपनियां जो बीज बनाती बीज उत्पादित करें क्योंकि प्राइवेट सेक्टर की भी जरूरत है और इनोवेशन और रिसर्च एक तरफ आईसीआर भी करता है, यूनिवर्सिटीज भी करती है, दूसरी तरफ प्राइवेट कंपनीज भी करती है, तो कोई अगर करे तो इनोवेशन का फायदा किसान को मिलना चाहिए.
The coming Union Budget for 2026-27 could see some of the following measures being adopted for the agricultural sector. According to experts, improving farmers' access to credit and finance would continue to be an ongoing priority. The budget could extend further support to farmers in the form of subsidized loans to support modern and sustainable farming practices. This could include expansion of the Kisan Credit Card (KCC) scheme to cover more farmers, especially small and marginal landholders. Special loans for farm machinery, irrigation and organic farming could also be announced in the budget. With the government's stress on the welfare of the farmer, income support for small and marginal farmers could be another focus point of the Union Budget this year. So the budget could include continuation and expansion of the PM Kisan scheme, providing 6,000 rupee plus annually to farmers. The minimum support price, MSP, for major crops has always been a key focus area of the Union Budget. So the Finance Minister is expected to announce an appreciable hike in MSP to ensure fair returns to the farmers. Important agricultural initiatives like the Prime Minister Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana, which focuses on 100 low productivity districts, and the mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses for promoting sustainable rural prosperity are also likely to receive the Finance Minister's attention. As always, there are also expectations on the subsidy front. Experts believe the budget could provide direct subsidies for fertilizers and seeds to help small farmers, and also subsidies for drip irrigation and solar pumps to promote sustainable agriculture and water conservation. Subsidies could also be extended for cold storage and warehousing facilities to reduce post-harvest losses. The Finance Minister may continue with the recent emphasis on the digital transformation of agriculture in order to provide farmers better access to their markets. Finally, the Union Budget may encourage soil health improvement programs for increasing productivity, besides promoting use of eco-friendly fertilizers and biopesticides. As the Union Budget approaches, all eyes remain on how these measures could shape the future of Indian agriculture. Tanvi Dhaneja for DD India.
While you're watching TD India News, our time now for some sports news. World number one Carlos Alcaraz will lock horns with last year's runner-up Alexander Zverev in the first semi-final of the Australian Open in Melbourne today. Alcaraz made the semi-finals after a crushing win over Australian sixth seed Alex de Minaur. Zverev's presence is something of a surprise given his early exits at Wimbledon and the US Open last year. Zverev knocked out first-time Grand Slam quarter-finalist Lerner Tain to set up the match up with Alcaraz and is glad to enter it injury-free. Alcaraz aims to become the youngest man in the Open era to complete a career Grand Slam, while Zverev chases his maiden Grand Slam title. In the second semi-finals, defending champion and world number 2 Jannik Sinner clashes with Novak Djokovic, with each having a milestone at stake. Sinner stands on the brink of becoming only the second man in the Open era to complete a compete in Melbourne, while Novak Djokovic is in pursuit of an unprecedented 25th major title. The Italian has won their last 5 matches and been Djokovic's semi-final nemesis at the Grand Slams. Sinner did not concede a set to Djokovic in the French Open and Wimbledon semis last year, having beaten at Melbourne Park 2 years ago on the way to his first Grand Slam title. While the odds are stacked against Djokovic, the Serbian great is still a contender for the title. An Indian Grandmaster Divya Deshmukh will make her debut at 2026 Norway Chess Tournament, becoming the youngest player to compete in the women's tournament since its launch in 2024. Deshmukh had a breakthrough season in 2025. At just 19 years old, she became the 4th Indian woman in history to achieve the Grandmaster title. She's also enjoyed success representing India internationally, winning both individual and team gold medals. She will debut at the Norway Chess event, which will take place from May 25th to June 5th in Oslo. Norway Chess is one of the most prestigious platforms for elite women's chess, bringing together the world's strongest female players in a highly competitive setting. And India's Isharani Barua knocked second seed Sang Shio Yun of Chinese Taipei out of the Thailand Masters badminton tournament in the second round. Well, the 22-year-old Indian shuttler toiled for over an hour to beat her opponent 21-13, 14-21, 21-14 in Bangkok to progress into the quarter-finals of the BWF Super 300 tournament. The Indian shuttle reeled off 7 straight points to pocket the first game and seize early momentum, but Sang Shio Yun responded in the second game. The Chinese Taipei shuttler surged ahead to force a decider. The third game, however, belonged entirely to the Indian player as she sealed the match with ease. Late in the day, Devika Sehag joined Barua in the women's single quarter-finals with another upset win against 8th-seeded Chinese Taipei player Tang Xiao Kotong. And New Delhi's Vijay Chowk echoed with melodious Indian tunes as bands of tri-services and the Central Armed Police Forces played an array of foot-tapping melodies before a distinguished audience. At the beating retreat ceremony, the Air Force Band displayed the brilliant Sindoor formation. Naval Band showcased flawless Matsya Yantra formation, while the Army Military Band performed excellent tunes. Besides, the diverse compositions by the CAPF bands were filled with vibrancy and reflected a spirit of pride towards those who protect our nation. At a time when we are marking 150 years of Vande Mataram, this rendition at the Beatings Retreat 2026 by India's armed forces is particularly special. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.